From who knows where, drinking beer and betting sports. It's the Better or Worse podcast with Mitch, Randy, and Jersey Joe.
Hey, Randy, what's going on, man?
Hello. Hey, Mr. Mitch. How are you today? How are things in the north, brother?
Cold, very cold. Yeah, very cold, man.
Well, I'm a little chilly here in my pool cage, too. I got to tell you, it's got to be like 68. I had to wear a long sleeve shirt today.
Yeah, but you got to worry about those big snakes behind you. So we don't have to worry about. At least we don't have to worry about that up here. So listen, I want to talk a lot of college basketball because today is an awesome board. You got my favorite conference, which is the A10, is playing today. You got the Big 10, you got Big 12, you got the overlooked ACC, which will play tonight. And so to me, there's just a lot of today's one of those awesome days for college hoops. One of the things that stood out this weekend as I watched some of the games is I'm always amazed when I watch Villanova. Watching Villanova, they just seem to do everything the right way. They just from pure. It's almost like they watch Hoosiers every day before they go on the court. 5 passes, take a good open shot, rebound the basketball, walk the basketball up the court, get into your offense, a bunch of passing, and take an open shot. It really is amazing when you watch them. It's so different watching that team than a lot of the other isolation teams that I would say. You watch them, then you watch Kentucky, and you're looking at two completely different coached philosophies of basketball. And when I was watching them this weekend, I'm still amazed at Gillespie. I'm always trying to figure out, is this guy, he's not flashy. He has complete control of the game. He shoots 45 to 50% from three. He's a heck of a leader, and he seems like he's been there for 8 years. Is he NBA material? Do you consider him? Is he not flashy enough for the NBA right now?
Well, yes and no. See, you're a fan of that team. I'm really not. So, yeah, I'll hear your opinion on it because I have my own.
When I look at their team, listen, he's averaging about 18 points a game.
Yeah.
Their second leading scorer averages 15. I always look at the second leading scorer to see if he's over 15 a game, because if you have two guys that are over 15 a game, and then if you got 2 or 3 guys right around 10, that's a team that any one day you can shut down their leading scorer, but they can pick the points up other places. That's what I'm always impressed with the team. There's plenty of teams that have the guy that scores 20, and then there's a big drop off, and you have one guy at 10 and a bunch of guys at like 6 or 8. I think those teams are a lot more guardable than the team that has 2 guys 15, 16, and then 3 guys at like 9, 10, and 11. Because those are always the teams I think are the hardest to completely guard.
Yeah.
For
to get
40
back
minutes.
to your point about the style of play.
Yeah.
So the way I look at style of play is it's a double-edged sword, right? Like you got teams like Northwestern and Princeton and Villanova and a few others, even Virginia to an extent, where they play a certain style. But the problem with that style is not every player wants to play in that style, right? So sometimes it limits the amount of talent you can get. I think you can squeeze a little more talent out of some of the guys that you get, but I don't think you get the higher end talent when you play that style. I like Villanova too, and I think they're a very well coached team, but I'm not a particular fan of the style.
So you like the wide open, fast paced game much more so for college hoops than to slow it down.
Not necessarily a track meet, but where the offense is more free flowing, where there's concepts in place for the basketball, but not necessarily set plays, right? I mean, you may run, you may know who's going to screen, and but there's more of a free flowing factor to the game, where the kids are turned loose, so to speak.
Yeah, that's definitely not Villanova's style. That's definitely not their style. Definitely the teams you mentioned, Virginia, um, Northwestern, who's got a big game tonight, which I want to talk about because I think Wisconsin's on upset alert for that one. Uh, and so, yeah, I can see you definitely have games where that the wing is the most important position on the floor. And I think that's the kind of style you're talking about is getting that ball to the wing and letting them hoist a lot of threes. Um, but even so, okay, so then you look at Purdue. Okay, to me, Purdue's the best team in the league this year. That's what I think going in. I think they should be the favorite to win it all. But they play closer to the 80s more than any team I've seen out there because they've got two bigs and they go inside and out. I mean, they literally start inside to Eddie or Trayvon Williams every possession, right? I mean, the ball goes into them and then it kind of starts swinging almost like Phil Jackson's triangle offense where it goes into them and then they kind of swing it around first. So you're looking to me at man, I think this year we're seeing three or four different styles of basketball, much different than any. I mean, in the Big 12, they're beating each other up with defense, right? The Big 12 now is really a defensive conference. Even with Kansas, Obaji's shooting almost 50% from three, but still
Right.
that team is built on their bigs playing defense. That McCormick's playing better this year. Braun's come out of nowhere. I've always thought he was a flop, but he's come out of nowhere. Then you got Texas Tech that's beating people up on defense. Baylor has slipped a little bit. We kind of covered that last week, but we're seeing.
I wouldn't call Baylor a defensive team, but Texas Tech historically is a defensive team. Um, yeah, I would think the surprise in that group is probably Kansas. I agree with you.
I'm assuming you're watching a lot of Big Ten, right? Do
Uh,
you think that Michigan State at the end of the year is going to be in a top four spot in the Big Ten?
See, if you'd asked me that to start the season, I would have said no. If you'd asked me that a week ago, I would have said yes. But after their most recent loss to Northwestern, I don't. I think they're a mixed bag. I think on a good night they can beat anybody, and I think they can get had on any other night. Um, no, I think the class of the Big Ten right now is Purdue.
Yeah.
Uh, they just look like the best team. They got two bigs, and they're both good. They've got outside shooting to kick it out to, and Stefanovic and a couple of others. That Ivy kid he's going to be the next best thing at Purdue. Yeah, I like their team a lot. I think they're a team that's built for a championship run.
Yeah. You look at teams that can win 6 games in a tournament. Um, and I think we can kind of start to whittle it down. I think Kansas is one now. I think Kansas has proved they're definitely a contender this year. And that's without Remy Martin. I think when they get Remy Martin back, and they get that point guard position under control, I think the rest of their team will be even better.
Yeah,
Because I think that's their weakness right now without Remy is actually at the point guard. They've always been pretty solid at point guard. Um,
I like Arizona out of the Pac-12 too. I think they're going to
yeah.
be a contender at the end of the year. They super athletic team,
Hey,
a good
listen.
shooting team. They play good defense. I
Remember what
like
the
their chance.
Pac-12 did last year. Let's remember what the Pac-12 did in March last year, right? And let's stop underestimating them
Yeah,
because
they almost got a team to the final this year, almost.
listen, they are a conference of champions. So
Oh
conference of
God,
champions.
yeah, you and Bill Walton. Yeah,
um, but so listen, let's put this game up here because you guys got an interesting game today, right? Michigan at Maryland, and man, Maryland is boy, they're struggling right now, right? But they have Ayala. Can Ayala do enough to give Michigan problems tonight?
well,
Can
you know what? It's funny because I have so little confidence in Michigan this year that I actually, in my sport hitters bracket tonight, I took Maryland. Um, I, you know, to me, it's a game of non-contenders. I don't think either team is very good. I think they're teams that are headed in different directions. I think Michigan's in a youth movement, and I think Maryland is looking for their next head coach in a rebuild. So, you know, but honestly, I like Maryland tonight.
Wow, that surprises me. Is Hunter Dickinson not playing? Is he injured? Is he out for the year? What's his deal?
No, he was ill. I mean, I don't know whether it was COVID or
Okay.
some other illness, but he was out. He's been out ill the last 10 days essentially, and now they're worried about his conditioning, getting him back. So I think they're going to work him. He may play tonight. We'll see.
Are they a top 4 team in the Big Ten this year?
No.
No. Who
No.
right now, if you put a top 4 together for the Big Ten, obviously you said Purdue. Who do you got? Who are your other 3 teams you got slated as the top 4 in
Oh,
the
I've
Big
got
Ten?
Michigan State, Purdue,
Yep.
Illinois, and Wisconsin. I think would be my top 4. I think Wisconsin's got a nice team too. I mean, they got Brad Davidson, who's been there since the time of Moses, and they've got some other guys who've been around a long time. And what's the name of the kid? The kid who's emerged this year? Is it Davis?
For what, Wisconsin?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's hitting a lot of big shots. Jonathan Davis
Jonathan
hitting a,
Davis.
hitting a
Yeah,
lot of big shots. I've got him on my players to watch list, man, because I think he only averaged about 6 points a game last year.
yeah.
And another one, here's another one in the Big Ten that people aren't like. This one crept up on me is Keegan Murray for Iowa.
Hmm.
Is it Iowa or Purdue? Is he leading? No, he's leading Iowa. So he's on Iowa, and he averaged like 4 or 5 points a game last year. I think he's leading college basketball in points this year at about 23 a game.
Yeah.
That to me is wow. So does that give them a shot? The funny thing about Iowa last year was we all knew they didn't play any defense. You knew you were going to get 90 points a game out of them at offense, but
Well,
they couldn't.
they don't
They,
play any defense this year either. They're not any different. They got the same head coach, McCaffrey. I don't know how McCaffrey survives in Iowa, to be honest. I mean, they
he's
go
got
up and down the floor. And
two or
maybe they
three of his
understand
kids. Two or
but
three of his kids are playing for him right
well,
now,
yeah, okay, maybe
and they've got that point guard's got to be done this year. Finally, I think Bohannon finally has to be. This
another
has to
kid
be
who's
as
around since the time of Moses, right? I mean,
yeah. He's finally. I think he's set their all. I think he's now their all-time leading three-point shooter. But I think this has to be his
he
final year.
certainly had enough chances.
Yeah, he's been around. He's definitely been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So listen, there's the big conferences, and then one of the funny things this year, it seems like the ACC right now is heavily overlooked, right?
Well,
Doesn't it seem like
what do you think about Miami? I mean, let's hear your thoughts there on the ACC and Miami.
Hey, listen, they've got that coach that they've had forever, right? So they've got the coach right now that I think it's Larinaga. Isn't it Larinaga? The guy that they got out of George Washington in his immaculate run 13, 14 years ago. So it seems like they got better losing their star point guard. Their star point guard transferred to he's someplace Arkansas. I think he actually went to Arkansas. And do I think they're going to be better than Duke? No, and I don't. I don't think they're going to be the class of the ACC. I think Florida State's going to have a very down year for Florida State standards. Syracuse, Boeheim's kids are running all over the court. Jimmy, Buddy, whatever their names are, they're hoisting up threes like crazy in the ACC.
Really shoot it. Yeah,
yeah, and so to me, we're not hearing about UNC. I mean, is it because? I mean, I think Hubert Davis, first-year coach, has taken over. They seem to be a pretty good team that's kind of flying way under the radar. Virginia's way down, right, this year. They're not going to be anywhere close to what we're used
they're
to
in the
seeing.
middle of the pack in the ACC. They're not way down.
Well, first of all, they're usually a top. We've been considering them a top 4 team for a good 5 or 6 years with the way they play defense. They always seem to have that one or a forward that can get them 10 points and a guy, Kevin Guy or another player that can shoot the ball for them
Right.
to get them their points. And they don't have that this year. Yet they're still going to play that brand of defense. So the ACC is so far down from where it used to be. It used to be the SEC of football. That was what the ACC was at college basketball. It was the measuring stick in college basketball. Yes, you had the Big East in the 80s, but still the ACC was it to me the measuring stick of everything. And it's just not that way right now. And to me, it's a long ways away from that way. Especially now you're losing Krzyzewski, right? Krzyzewski's last year. Boy, to me,
That's all I can say about Mike Krzyzewski. See ya. Bye.
you're not a fan.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
not a fan.
Not a fan. No.
Yeah, I've got a problem with what he did last week. Telling a player, "Do you know who you're talking to?" Listen, the player was wrong for Georgia Tech for talking to him. I think it was DeVoe that was talking some trash to him. But you're a coach; you don't talk to somebody else's player. If I was Georgia Tech's coach, I would have had a serious problem with Krzyzewski, and I would have let him know about it. I don't care who he is. You don't talk to my players. So I think so. I think you're seeing a change in the guard in the ACC.
What about Wake Forest? That's a team I'm surprised by. Now, I haven't got a lot of chance to watch them play, but I've been watching their record go up, and I keep thinking, where the heck? First of all, they come out. They have their coming out year this year in football, and
Yep.
now they are near the top of the standings in basketball. What's going on at Wake Forest?
So Wake Forest is middle pack. It looks like they're 4-3 right now. Man, Florida State at 4-2. I literally could see. I could see this being a year where only 3 or 4 teams out of the ACC get in the tournament. I literally could see that because when I look at here is a conference that I really like. When I look at the A10, if you're not watching
I knew
A10,
you were going to the A10. I knew that. Okay, go ahead.
here's why.
Okay.
So the A10 has Davidson. Kellen Grady was a stud for Davidson, right? He was the guy that I thought was going to be the next Steph Curry. He transferred to Kentucky. They've got a guy named Lee who's going to probably be a 50, 40, 90 guy. They've got another guy, I think his name is Wright or David Jones, who's like a 6'5" shooting guard who's going to be a 50, 40, 90 guy. They've got 3 or 4 guys literally that shoot better than 45% from 3-point range. They've got 2 guys shooting 92% from the foul line. They are very slow. They are playing a team today in VCU that likes to be very chaotic and speed you up and hopes you miss shots.
Did you take that game in your bracket today?
I did.
Did you
I
take?
think VCU at home.
I took Davison. We're at odds today.
And we've got our brackets here. We're going to put them up here in a second. But last year I loved betting on St. Bonaventure. I thought they were the biggest steal in all of college basketball last year. And they have the same starting 5 this week. They played Friday against VCU at home. All the pundits, all these, everybody under the sun said, "Oh, well, this is the year VCU is going to get them." St. Bonnie's won by 20 at home. It's still a home. It's still the top 4 teams. They'll win at home. And so those top 4 teams are playing each other today. St. Bonnie's is going to play Dayton, I think. VCU, St. Bonnie's playing Dayton. VCU is playing Davidson, and those are fun games to me. Davidson's a fun team to watch.
Uh-huh.
They can hit shots, man, and they're going to get open shots against VCU. But at the end of the day, if you speed Davidson up, which VCU likes to do, they're going to create problems. And VCU's at home. I like VCU tonight. To pull the upset over Davidson. I think Davidson actually has the longest winning streak in college basketball right now. They've won 13 or 14 in a row. I think it's the longest winning streak.
And it extends tonight.
You think it extends tonight? You think you like Davidson tonight over VCU?
I like Davidson tonight. I think they just shoot it too well.
They do shoot. Listen, I can't disagree with you. They shoot the ball. They're the best shooting team that I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because when they lost Kellen Grady, I'm like, boy, they lost Kellen Grady. How are they doing this? And then I watched their team. They've got a Barkovich or whatever his name is, like a 7-foot center. Luka Barkovich is his name. They've got Lee, and then they got that guy Jones, and they can shoot like crazy. But I still like St. Bonnie's to be the class of that league this year. I think overall they've got 5 starters. Those 5 starters all play 35 minutes. They can any one of their starters can get 20 points in a night. They're led by a senior point guard, and I think that they will end up winning the A10. And I think this is a year where we might be able to see 2 extra teams besides the big 4 come out of the A10. I could see 6 teams coming out of the A10 this year in spots, because St. Louis is going to be decent. The Rhode Island is actually decent this year.
They're just every year, but they're never good.
Hey, listen, I'm telling you right now, if you look at the ACC, I'd put some of those teams. I'd put St. Bonnie's. I'd put Davidson up against some ACC teams and see how they did. And I don't think they'd be scared. I don't think they'd be intimidated going into those games. I think it's a different feel this year.
Yeah.
I think we've seen
a big difference between being scared and being in the game.
Well, listen, I think that they'd be in the game 100%. I think they'd be in those games, and I don't think they'd be intimidated by them.
I would love to see the point spreads on a few of those games, and I'm sure we will if come tournament time. But what's so great about the tournament?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, when the tournament comes around, it's all about the Pac-12.
Because
we figured that out last year.
The tournament is the truth. The tournament is the truth, right?
If the tournament is the truth, then the Pac-12 is got to have some serious respect, because they dominated that tournament last year.
Right.
They had 4 teams make it. Didn't they have 4 teams go to the Final 8? They had 4 teams in the Sweet 16, and maybe they had 3 teams in the Final 8.
I don't remember it exactly. My memory from last year is kind of foggy.
Yeah, you
right.
want to quickly forget
I blocked
those.
a lot of that out. Yeah.
So. So right now, what do you see as like the dominant conference? Who is the number one? Is it Big 12? Is it Big 10?
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, I don't really think there is a dominant conference this year. I mean, I think the SEC's got a bunch of good teams. I think, but they're not deep. I think the ACC's got a few good teams, but they're not deep. I think the Big Ten's got a few good teams, but they're not deep. Same thing with the Pac-12. I just don't see a dominant conference this year. I think this is going to be a really interesting year come tournament time. And I think a lot of that's going to play out in the conference tournament. So it's going to start with that. We're going to see, kind of who's really playing well at the end of the year. I think there's a lot of young players in college basketball right now that are yet to make their mark on this year, but they're coming. That Max Christie kid from Michigan State is kind of an example of that. Kid who's kind of didn't really do much the first during the non-conference season, starting to come on in conference play and starting to be a leader of that team. There's a bunch of kids out there that are going to fall into that category. So it'll be interesting to watch and see, who emerges at the end of the year. But I don't think it's going to be a conference thing. I think it's going to be a team by team.
I'm really interested to see what happens to that Northwestern Wisconsin game. Listen, Wisconsin's got a big win against Purdue this year. Massive win.
Yeah.
And
Northwestern has a massive win against Michigan State.
Yes.
So that's what I mean kind of about the parity of the conferences. It doesn't look like there's great teams.
Man, it could come down again. Johnny, who did he beat? Was it Maryland?
He
beat somebody on a last-second shot.
Going to be number one because they play in a crap conference, and they, and they're clearly the best team in their conference, and so they're going to be number one again all year, and probably until they, around number one all year until they get to tournament time, and then they get beat again. I just kind of feel like that's how this year is headed again. It's going to be a team that we're not really talking about right now that ends up winning it all.
All right, let's do this. We're gonna throw on a quick commercial for Sport Hitters when we come back. I'm gonna put up our brackets today, and we'll go through our brackets.
So what's it like playing Sport Hitters? Whether you're at your favorite bar or just anywhere. Sport Hitters' unique challenge brackets offers players a new way to play. Sport Hitters allows you to pick your teams and challenge friends, family, and rival players, all for real money. And best of all, now it's every sport, every day. You can get the app exclusively at sporthitters.com. Sport Hitters, challenge on. So what's it like?
Okay, so listen, we picked our brackets, and let's see if we can pull these up here. We got our brackets in, and I kind of wanted to go through how we got there and how with some of the feedback that we got on Sport Hitters is about trying to educate people. And what we like to do is, we go in here and we challenge each other. And so I kind of put together how we do that. We get in here, and from the homepage, we select the create custom and play friends. We typically set it up for 4 or 5 people. Typically set it up for 4 or 5 picks. And here's me right here on the left. So I'm the brackets on the left. You're the brackets on the right. It looks like I didn't take the Maryland game. I actually have Northwestern tonight at home. I've got VCU at home. I've got West Virginia at home. And then it looks like we both took Fresno State. And what this is showing you is when you pick all these picks are picking winners. You're simply picking the winner of the game. And when you win, the points that you are what's circled to outpoint him. I'm trying to get more points than Randy. Randy's trying to get more points than me. So what this is telling us is if we both go 4-0, I win. Because right here, my potential in points is 44.72. Randy's is 42.80. Now Randy's got an interesting game here. He's got Liberty over Jacksonville. He's got Eastern Michigan. There's a shocker over Kent State. You'll typically see some stuff. And then look at this. This is the Mr. Pessimism right here with his favorite team in Michigan, and he went with Maryland. So Randy is definitely trying to win.
That's not pessimism. That's a strategy. Either way, I'm going to sleep well tonight.
So, and if Maryland beats him, he's getting 16.2 points. That's a big. That's if Maryland wins. So I'm watching that game. I'm actually rooting for Michigan because if he pulls 16.2, it's hard for me to catch him. He's got Fresno State. I've got Fresno State. We're both getting 8.45 points on that. But here's what I took. I've got Northwestern at home over Wisconsin for the upset. If Northwestern wins, I get 11.2 points. I did take the Virginia Commonwealth Davidson. I took VCU at home. It's 8.57. I love that pick. And then I took West Virginia tonight. Listen, I'm not sold yet on Baylor. And the big reason is because of Akinjo. Right. I'm not, I think there's something to him leaving Georgetown and then leaving U of A. And now he's at Baylor. And I think the first time we see adversity for them, they didn't pass the test. So, the funny thing is, Georgetown is still the worst shooting team in college basketball. And so they're struggling this year. We haven't even touched on them, but yeah, he left them. He's now on Baylor. I love West Virginia tonight at home. I think they play much different under Bobby Huggins at home, and I expect them to eke out a win. So here's our brackets for tonight. Now, we get a lot of questions on this. How do the points work? How do you get in there? We've had some interesting questions, and so I just kind of wanted to answer them. I mean, it's basically points. You're just picking winners, and you're adding up points, almost like you do in regular college brackets. And so in brackets, you go 2 points, 4 points, 6 points if you pick winners by rounds. And all we're doing is doing the same thing, but we're doing it only one round at a time. So you just pick it, you're getting points, and we weight the teams. So if you like moneyline parlays, if you like having action on a lot of games, like I'll be watching, as you can see, we only have one of the same games. So not only do I care about the games that I win, I care about the games that Randy's in, and he cares about the games that I'm in. So literally, if I went 2-2 in my brackets, I could still win even if he went 3-1. And this really breaks it down and kind of shows you what we go at when we talk about our brackets and what we're doing. One thing I will say,
explanation, Tom. But what you really should have just said was that you picked losers, I picked winners, and we should have just left it at that. I mean, obviously my points are lower, but my picks are so superior that I'm probably a shoe-in winner at this point.
Yeah, or we could end up back here again with Randy, right here. We could end up back here.
It could happen, but probably not.
The Eastern Michigan game, I don't know anything about Eastern Michigan this year. I know Kent State was a great team to have last year, but Nuga is down at UNLV. I think they had Nuga and they had Pippen, and Pippen is no longer there. But that was a conference I loved last year. Was that Toledo, Kent State, I think they had Ball State, Bowling Green. They had some interesting teams. Toledo, Akron. They had that little 5'3" point guard last year on Akron that used to average like 20 points a game. But I haven't put a lot of attention into that.
I like Eastern because they're always underrated every year. They get the inner city Detroit kids that play on that team. And my daughter went there, and I wore their hat yesterday. So
Did you?
Those are the 4 reasons that I actually picked Eastern Michigan today.
Do you follow Oakland? The Oakland, Michigan
I
team?
love Oakland. Oakland's a good basketball team.
Yeah, they had a player last year, Williams, that was supposed to be pretty good.
The center. I can't remember his name, but he was a dude.
Yeah. So that's always a team, and they always end up. They always play. They play Michigan State every year. They play those big schools. They play the Big
played
Ten
Michigan
teams.
Year before last too. I mean, they play a tough schedule, and I'll tell you what, they usually win their conference and are usually at the top of their conference anyway, and are right in the mix for the tournament. And I expect they will be again this year.
And so this Eastern Michigan, are they of the 3, Eastern, Western, and Central? Do you think Eastern is the better team this year in college hoops?
So I haven't really taken a look at Central. I got to be honest, but Western's not very good this year. Oakland's very good. If I had to pick one of those 3 teams now, I probably would pick Oakland, but I think that Eastern's probably second there.
That's good. Interesting. So listen, one of the games that I watched heavily this weekend, because if you remember last year, I was a big proponent for Western Kentucky. They had Charles Bassey. I was really agitated that they didn't get into the tournament. Well, this year they have a center that's 7'5".
Yeah.
And they have former Mr. Kentucky in basketball. His name is Davion McKnight. So they have Mr. Kentucky in basketball, Davion McKnight, and they have a center that's 7'5". Yet they're like 10-5. Is this a bad coaching job? Because I was trying to explain to a couple of my friends, if you're Western Kentucky and you play North Texas and you have a guy that's 7'5", shouldn't you be able to pencil that in as a win? Shouldn't you literally shouldn't that be a win? What are you doing losing to North Texas with a guy that's 7'5"?
Well, that tells you about the 7'5" guy's skills, doesn't it?
He's leading college basketball.
Dominate. Right.
He's leading college basketball in block shots.
Well, he's got his arm above the rim. I mean,
yeah, that's a problem.
I know, right?
But they also have Mr. Basketball from Kentucky. This is a guy that that you would think if he went to like Kentucky, he'd get 12 points a game. He's playing for Western Kentucky. Him and a guy that's 7'5" should be able to be able to go really well in that conference, and they're not. Which brings me to another point is I'm seeing a team that
hold on a second there. If you're a Mr. Kentucky basketball and you're not playing at Louisville or the University of Kentucky, you're overrated.
He's got good numbers. He's actually got good numbers, but he's got no help. He's got no help. I think he's averaging like 16 points and like 5 assists a game.
And which conference is this?
Western Kentucky. I don't even know what conference it is.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Is it Conference USA? I don't know. Yeah. I'll be honest. I don't know what conference that is. Huh. But it kind of led me down where I wanted to go, which is the coaches. And listen, there's a team out there that hasn't been good in 3 or 4 years, and we still are thinking that they're going to be good. Butler is horrendous. They are horrendous. And every time I watch them play, I'm like, this team their coach is awful. And Did you say
the coach is awful?
He's awful. He's just horrendous. You watch that team play and you're like, they have no chance. They don't even know what they're supposed to do out there. They've got some guys that are pretty good, but they literally run around. They look like a chicken with their head cut off. Every team literally just outplays them. And they don't have, and they keep talking about this LeVar Jordan like he's an incredible coach. And you just keep watching him, and you're like, this was a team that was really good and really good at home. This was a team that always had a big home court advantage that went under the radar. When they played at home, they were pulling upsets of top 5 teams. They were beating really good teams at home. And now you're watching this team. They just lost by 40 points to Villanova the other day. And it wasn't even, it wasn't competitive. There was no resistance from them. And that's after, I don't remember who they lost to last week, but there was no resistance. Again, maybe DePaul beat them. Somebody beat them last week. There was no resistance. And we're starting to see I'm seeing differences. Listen, ASU I watched the other night, that's the worst ASU team I've seen in 32 years. It's the worst ASU team I've seen in 32 years. Since before I went to college, I haven't seen an ASU team this bad. And
Wow.
yeah, it was hard to watch. It was all isolation basketball. It couldn't be further from the way that Bobby Hurley usually coaches. And again, I go back to all of our players. We have one starter from last year in Nebraska, one's at Kansas, 2 are at Grand Canyon. We got 5 new guys that are just playing isolation basketball. So it goes back to where we first started. I'm circling back to where we first started in the styles of basketball. And I like the Villanova style. I like the organized pass, take good shots, score 65 to 70 and win a game over trying to score 90. I can't stand when Roy Williams at the end of his North Carolina. I grew up a North Carolina fan, and I couldn't stand watching North Carolina try to score in 6 seconds, give up a basket, don't care, and then try to score 6 seconds later. I couldn't stand it. And so I going into the next 2 months, we're now looking at, we're in conference play. We're deep into conference play. The Big Ten's going to beat each other up. Is that you agree with that, right? You agree that
I think all conferences beat each other up. Yep.
So you got to agree with the fact that home court is going to mean something.
Oh yeah.
And now I'm looking at Pac-12 and thinking, here we go again. We're only getting 3-4 teams in. They're going to do really good though in the tournament because they're going to have some of the best coaches that nobody likes.
And who are those 3 teams for you? UCLA and who else?
It'll be UCLA, U of A, Oregon should get in. USC should get in. There's 4 teams right there. There's 4 teams.
They'll probably get 5 teams in, is my guess.
Who would be the 5th? Cal? Would it be Cal?
Somebody will emerge at the end of the season and get up into the just enough category. Yeah.
Cal could be a sleeper. They're actually playing pretty good basketball. Stanford, no. Colorado they could put string together a couple upsets and get in.
Utah.
Utah's awful this year. They're not good.
Are they bad? I've not seen them play, but they're typically good. So
yeah, they're not good. Washington State's really poor. Washington's really poor. ASU's really poor. And Stanford's really not Stanford. If there's going to be a sleeper, it would be Cal or Colorado for that 5th spot. But I would rather see it go to an A10 team. I'd rather see it maybe Big Ten, 5 or 6. SEC. One of the things we touched on last week, and I forgot all about the team I like out of the SEC, which is I like Arkansas. So I think the team that will come out of the SEC and go the furthest in the tournament will be Arkansas. I do like Note. They got the transfer link. I think his name is Miles Lincoln or something from Miami. But I think Note will be able to carry them in the tournament.
I look at LSU and Florida State being much better teams at the end of the season. I see both of those teams getting in the tournament, and I feel like they're going to be the class at the end of the year of the SEC.
Well, Florida State's ACC, but
you
mean Florida? Do you mean Florida?
No, not Florida. Alabama. I'm sorry.
Oh, Alabama.
Yeah.
So you got Alabama and you got LSU.
LSU. I see those teams coming on at the end of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Alabama's team. I do like Alabama's team. I don't get behind Wade.
They have good coaching. They have good coaches on those teams, and I think coaches make a big difference. And I think we're gonna see those teams do really well at the end of the season.
All right. So when we circle back here on Friday, we're gonna figure out,
Hey, make sure you come on Friday with the win-loss record from today, since you posted my picks up here to the world, and now every time Dick and Harry out there thinks he's going to be able to outsmart the guru here. But Yeah, let's circle back on Friday. We'll go through our results. Because you just gave away all my picks. So
I just gave away your picks. My man, are you kidding me? You picked Eastern Michigan and Maryland.
that's a sleeper
You're
pick. Nobody else picks that. That's why that's such a good pick. Nobody else picked Eastern. I'm the only guy who picked Eastern. Eastern's it's just rock solid. Wait and see. We'll talk about this on Friday. But yeah, Eastern Michigan for all you guys now. Now that the cat's out of the bag, pick Eastern.
Yeah, rock solid. I think Eastern Michigan's a long way from rock solid, but
it is today.
We'll see. Anyway, listen, yeah, we will be back at it on Friday. We might have a couple more podcasts in the meantime. Keep an eye out on our Facebook page and our TikTok
and I may
page.
be back in my studio on Friday too, so that'll be good. Right now I am having my house redone, and I have been kicked out by the electrical crew who are drilling and pounding and have relegated me to Lanai. So, I'll be able to see better. I'll be able to, not that I really have to see you, Tom. I mean, not that you're not pretty or something, but,
You're just digging a deep hole. Just stop.
I'm feeling
stop.
I feel full of it today. I don't know why. Okay.
Yeah, you got that nice weather behind you. I got a bunch of meetings to go to in 10-degree weather. So, it's 10 degrees up here. Anyway, all right, man. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to watching Eastern Michigan crumble tonight. So go Kent State. Go Michigan. I'm actually rooting on Big Blue. You're rooting on Maryland. But I think my teams will take care of themselves. So I might not even have to watch your picks, to be quite honest with you. But it should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. Anyway, we'll be back on Friday. And that's it for another episode of
War Eagles.